Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas to me! You know, I think I'm at my happiest when I'm baking keto holiday cookies. Nothing brings me more joy than being in my kitchen, blasting the Christmas carols and singing at the top of my lungs, and creating a low-carb treat that rivals some of my childhood favorites. That's why today, I'm going to show you how to make a holiday classic. We're making Keto Spritz Cookies. Now, to make classic spritz, you do need one piece of special equipment. You need a cookie press. The one that I have is about 10 years old from Pampered Chef. Not even sure if they sell it anymore. However, you can get good cookie presses at a lot of online retailers and kitchen stores. We're going to start by creaming some butter with some sweetener. Now, I recommend having the butter very well softened. If your house is cold, you might want to give it a quick zap in the microwave. Now, you need to make sure you're using an erythritol-based sweetener that has no allulose or xylitol so that the cookies crisp up properly. I am actually using a version of Swerve that is only erythritol and monk fruit. And I'm using 2/3 cup, and I'm going to beat it with the butter until it's light and fluffy, about 2 minutes. I always recommend starting the mixer slowly so that the sweetener doesn't poof out everywhere. And you can see here now that the butter has become a lighter color and it has a fluffy consistency. That's just about perfect. So now we're going to add a room temperature egg. You want it room temperature so that the cold egg doesn't make your nicely creamed butter clump up again. Oh, there it is. And then we'll add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and we'll beat those in until well combined. Once that's all nicely beaten in, we can add our dry ingredients. 2 cups of almond flour, 2 tablespoons of coconut flour to firm up the dough a little, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and about 1/4 teaspoon salt. Again, start your mixer on low so things don't come poofing out of your mixer. And once that's all nicely beaten in, you should have a very soft dough that you can press through a cookie press. Now it's time to fill our cookie press. Every cookie press is a little bit different, but they all should come with removable plates where you can make different designs and patterns. So this press gives me a nice wreath shape. This press gives me a nice swirl. And I even have a Christmas tree and a little snowman. So I'm just gonna pack some dough into my cookie press, put the top on with the removable plate. Now I'm using the wreath. And now I want to get my cookie press to the point where the dough is ready to start coming out and is nicely packed in there. You can see it starting to come out right here. Now you want to take a baking sheet that you've lined with either parchment or a silicone baking mat, and you can start pressing your cookies. It takes a couple tries to figure out exactly how much dough to get through the press. If you don't have enough dough coming through, you don't get the proper pattern. If you have too much, you get a big blob and you can't tell what it is. The good news is you can just scrape off that dough, toss it back in the bowl, and reuse it later. Okay, let's see. Usually it takes about 1/4 turn of my press. Oh, that one came out really nicely. Perfect! Yay! These are looking perfect. I'm a spritz genius. Now, one thing about making spritz cookies is you can't put them that close together simply because of the size of the press, which means you may need 2 or more baking sheets to get a whole batch. Now, what happens when you want to do a different pattern? Well, that's pretty simple. I usually loosen up the press so that the dough isn't shoved down too much. Then I take off the top. I've got a lot of the dough in there, so I'll scrape that off and put it back into the press. And then I can simply pop out this plate and exchange it for another one. And we'll start going again. Ooh, looks perfect. Seriously, I am so good at this. So now I've got a full tray of cookies and it's ready for the oven. I'm gonna have to do another tray, but they go in at 325 for about 12 to 14 minutes. You want them to be just firm to the touch, but not quite browning around the edges yet. They'll still be very soft, but they will continue to firm up as they cool. Okay guys, our cookies have just come out of the oven and they are still very soft and warm to the touch, which is actually perfect because this is where we can talk about decorating options. I like to put little candies in the middle of my wreaths and my flowers and things. And there are now some really great keto candies that you can use to decorate, but you want to put them in while the cookies are still warm. This way they'll actually stick to the cookie but not melt completely. Now these ones from Max Sweets have nice primary colors. You can also use the lilies, but they tend to be a little more pastel, so not quite the holiday colors you might be looking for. But you've also got other options. You can do things like put some chocolate chips in the center, and then they melt really nicely. Or you can do something like take my sugar-free dried cranberries and put those in as well. Now I like to do my cookies all a little differently, but I'm using a lot of the red and green candies to just press right into the center of the cookie. Then I'm going to put some chocolate chips, and maybe I'll do a few with the cranberries too. I also recommend leaving some of them plain because we're going to dip them in chocolate. Now to dip some of your cookies in chocolate, you want them to be completely cool. But once they are, you can melt some sugar-free chocolate, and I've got about 2 ounces here. And I'm using a tiny bit of coconut oil, about half a teaspoon, to help it melt more smoothly. And I'm just going to do this in my microwave on 30-second increments, stirring in between until it's smooth. Okay, once your chocolate is nice and smooth and melted, you can do a couple of things. You can just dip the bottoms of your cookies, so we'll try this one without getting our hands too dirty. Gives it a little flavor. You can let it go slightly over the edges and then put it on a waxed paper lined sheet. You can also take some of the plain cookies and just completely cover them in chocolate. Now I like to do that with the Christmas trees because they don't actually really look like Christmas trees. Tap off the excess chocolate, put it on your waxed paper, and from there you can put a few little holiday sprinkles on top. I get these red, white, and green sprinkles from the Sprinkle Company on Etsy. They are sugar-free. I like to do all of my Spritz cookies a little differently. So I leave some of them plain like this. I dip some in chocolate on the bottoms. I dip some completely in chocolate. I make them a nice variety because then when you put them on the cookie Christmas tray, they look fabulous. Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas to me. I have some beautiful Keto Spritz cookies right here. Some of them are dipped in chocolate. Some of them just have chocolate bottoms. And others are left plain and simple and yet still beautiful. I love these little cookies. They are tender and sweet, and I can pop a whole one in my mouth. Another thing I love about these cookies is that they freeze super well, so you can make them ahead and get a jump on your holiday cookie trays. For this delicious holiday cookie recipe and so many more, please check out alldayidreamaboutfood.com.